Thanks for joining us here on the Illini Drive here on WPGU 107.1. I'm your host, Jamal Collier, and excited to be here on this jam-packed Monday. A lot to get to here on the show in the sporting world. I got to talk about the Bulls and some things happening in the NBA. A fun NBA playoffs we're finally off to, and the NHL playoffs has been fun as well, and the Blackhawks advancing as well. And to join me talking, we got a full house: Elliot Sill, Torrance Sorrell, Joey Gelman, and Nick Fortin all here today. You can follow along us on Twitter. It's at Illini Drive, ILLINIDRIVE. You can join in the conversation today and join in all throughout the week as we try to keep you updated on the Illinois and sporting world. Thanks for the good people at UPTV who broadcast us. You may be watching us here on Wednesday night, 9 p.m. That's every week. They come in and film us and make us look a whole lot better than we do. So without further ado, we're going to get right into it, guys. And the Blackhawks, just a dominant third period to close out the Blues. They come back from a 2-0 deficit and, advance in this series here, winning 4 straight. Just wondering what you guys' initial reactions were watching that game and watching the way the Blackhawks kind of took over after what had been a close series and a close game up until that point.
Oh, man, that was just great to see finally the Blackhawks kind of explode for a great third period and a great end to that series.
Yeah, I mean, don't you wish this was like a Western Conference final for this one?
It felt
or a
like
Stanley
it
Cup final?
Yeah, really.
That'd be cool.
It sure felt like it. I mean, it was 6 games, but I think their bodies probably felt like it was 8.
Yeah, especially with those overtimes, those thriller games.
It's amazing that we're here. Last week we were talking, are the Blackhawks done? They're down 2-0.
We're 1 week removed from the worst weekend in Chicago sports history, and here we are. We're happy.
There we go.
Yeah. About the Blackhawks, anyway.
Yeah. They seem to always be the one thing that keeps Chicago sports happy. As far as the last couple of years.
That is definitely true.
Yeah, it was an interesting matchup just because you have a Blues team that early on played so physical and forced the Blackhawks to play physical when they don't want to. And you saw that in the first 2 games when they're forced out of their comfort zone. They lost, and they looked bad losing it. They took bad penalties. You have Seabrook getting suspended in the second game. So kudos to the Blackhawks for sticking to their game and really taking it to where the Blues couldn't in terms of their quickness and speed. And even though the last game was 1-1 for most of it, able to really put the onslaught on in the third period there really shows just how offensively skilled this team is when they have some space.
I mean, even when it was 1-1, it felt like it was wide open, and then, score a couple more, and by a couple I mean 4, and there goes the game.
And then everybody scored too. That was one of the more impressive parts. You honestly see that from just guys like Kane and Taves, but I mean, they said 11-4 scored within the whole series, so the fact that everybody got a chance to hit the puck in the goal, it was good to see that everybody kind of got a little bit of exposure too. It wasn't just a one-man show.
I like that Seabrook came back and scored. What was that? The first one that they scored on.
He assisted on the first one.
He assisted on the first one,
and on the second one.
There you go. Come back and have a big impact in his first game back from suspension. That was nice to see.
Yeah, and also just Corey Crawford too. It's like after that second game, after he allowed that goal to go in, he just completely went crazy in the next 4 games. He was one of the, really in my opinion, one of the big reasons that they got so far in the series.
And it's funny because Corey, after that game, kind of took everything on him and said, "This is all on me." And it's obviously players do all the time and try to hold themselves accountable. And it wasn't all on Corey in those first 2 games, but really won them game 3.
Yeah.
And you could make a case because in that second period, the Blues dominated the puck and had a lot of outshot the Black. I don't know what the numbers are exactly, but they outshot the Blackhawks by a lot. And Crawford again kept them in that game for them to be able to pull away in that third period.
Yeah, I mean, I know this sounds weird, but I've never really been a fan of the way the Blackhawks play defense. I mean, they have great shot blocking. You see that from Hjalmarsson in this series, and obviously they've won 2 cups with the way they've played, which is why it's a weird statement.
Why aren't you a fan? I don't know.
Right? Well, it's just when teams go on the rush pretty quickly, it seems like the Hawks let them get too far in the zone before they start actually pressuring the puck, and so when there were instances like that, that's when you see a guy like Crawford really step up there because when you're not really in the cycling the puck, if you're the Blues, if you're on a big-time rush, their defense kind of play, like the Bears with their cover 2 kind of play back a little bit. So with that, you kind of saw just how good Crawford can really be, and he needed that in this series.
Were you always a fan of Crawford? Did you have to kind of buy in after he won?
I think I was a fan. I was still a little shaky just because, I mean, when they won it the first time and you saw Niemi, just how outstanding he was, you didn't really know how they would recover because you've had this guy in the minors for so long that finally getting a shot and didn't really have that big spark when he came up to the NHL. But I think I was still positive on him even before they won it with him last year. But you just had such big shoes to fill after winning it the first time that there was always that question. But obviously he proved himself, and with his great parade speech, maybe had a few drinks in his system. But yeah, so.
Now, it's easy to look at this and say that Seabrook's suspension was the turning point for the series.
And
was it?
And who would have thought it was the turning point in the way that it was, the Blackhawks go on? I personally think it was. I mean, you take out the captain for St. Louis, and, it's not as big a loss as if, Chicago loses Taves, but it's a big loss, and it definitely changed, I think, the atmosphere for St. Louis and for the series, and it turned the series around.
Do you think it kind of encouraged the Blackhawks to avoid the physical game that they were trying to?
I think
I don't know if it's so much the Blackhawks were changed, but I think after that game, the NHL told both coaches and both teams, "Hey, cut it out. Let's play. Stop playing so dirty." And it was kind of, they sent that message to them, and once it was about hockey and not about being physical and about cheap shots and about who can hit who, the Blackhawks are better than the Blues in that kind of skill game,
the finesse game.
So I think that may have had a little bit to do with it, but I wouldn't point to that as necessarily the turning point, and that happened when the series turned around.
Right.
I think it just more that it almost sounds cliche and ridiculous, but. No, the Blackhawks once got in a hole and kind of woke them up a little bit and said, "All right, we got to play." And it's kind of similar to last year. They went down 3-1 to Detroit, and that was their kind of big deficit or thing they had to overcome. And I'm wondering if that's it this year. And I'm hoping that, because now that they'll just roll through the rest of the playoffs.
Well,
but I don't know.
The amazing thing is, down 2-0, it's like it's a huge hole because not only is Game 3 a must-win to avoid the 3-0 hole.
Game 4 really is.
Game 4 is too, because then you've otherwise you're signing up for a 7-game series in which you have to win every time.
Right. And it's weird that down 2-0 on the road. I mean, losing both games on the road doesn't mean a whole lot, because essentially that's what's supposed to happen. Like, you're supposed to win your home games. So for the Blues, even though that's why in the NBA, I always say when people go up 2-0, I say, it is held court at home, whatever. In the NHL, I kind of felt really different, which is weird. I don't know why. That's just the mindset I have.
Like it matters less.
It matters almost, I think you can win on the road easier in the NHL. I always feel like.
Yeah,
I'm
not sure.
I'm not either. There's probably no numbers to back that up. That's just my gut feeling.
But yeah, I agree with that gut feeling. Yeah, I don't know why. But
that's why they looked that up.
Go for it.
Go ahead.
What was also interesting too is just you look if that's a turning point with the injury, and I think the bigger thing is no matter if Seabrook plays or Backus, the issue was that forced Quenneville to put Kane and Taves together on a line, and I think that really was a stepping stone to them coming back in the series, and especially since they were both hurt coming into it, to get their legs back under them and then to put them together where they can utilize each other's skill set the way they have. I feel that was a big momentum shift, because those are some of the two best hockey players in all the league when they're healthy and on their game.
Yeah, and injury concerns were huge looming over the start of this series. Those kind of faded away pretty quickly.
Yeah, for sure.
Interesting that the Blues, once again, first of all, I don't know if you guys have saw the graphic that NBC kept playing up about I would say similarities, but the exact same thing between the Blues. 2-0 last year, they go up against the Kings and then lose 4 straight. Same with the Blackhawks. And if you guys haven't seen this, I have to find it. I don't know if, Darshad, did you see this? Maybe you'll find it on Twitter for everyone. It was eerie that the same guys scored the game winners in overtimes for the Blues in 1 and 2. They had the same scores in games 3 and 4 in a way they lost, 3 and 4, and 5, I think something else weird happened, and they lost Game 6 2-1. The first time, then this one obviously was a little more, but it was exactly the same, and they put them up against each other, and it was eerie. But anyway, with the Blues, they go out again, and the difference just seems to be. Sean, do you have it here? Yeah. Okay. Alex Steen, I may be mispronouncing that, scored the game-winning goal in overtime. That's game 1 of this year and last year. And then Barrett Jackman scores the game-winning goal, game this year and last year, game 2. The Blues outshoot the Kings by 9 and get shut out in game 3 last year. Game 3 this year, they outshot the Blackhawks by 9, shutout. Game 4, they blow a 3-2 lead late in the third period and lose 4-3. Exact same this year. Alex Pietrangelo, game-tying goal in Game 5. His first of the playoffs, assisted by Schwartz, and the Blues lose in overtime 3-2. The exact same thing happened as your first of the playoffs, assisted by Schwartz. They lose in 3-2.
Wow. That's just bad karma.
It didn't.
They shouldn't score no more.
That almost is surreal.
Yeah.
And then we'll probably tweet that out or something so people could read that if you didn't get that all there, but insane.
What do you do?
I don't know. You didn't have a chance. Fate had you.
Pretty much.
I mean, they went for it, too, acquiring Ryan Miller and Ott in the middle of the year. And, I mean, those are big-time players. Ryan Miller's one of the best goalies in the NHL, an Olympian. And, I mean, they really went for it. I think they're a very good team, and they'll probably go far next year. But those are some eerie things.
I would have probably said Canucks are the biggest rival with the Blackhawks. And now the way they've restructured everything, they won't see the Canucks really that often. The Blues, Blackhawks' biggest rival, are we? I think that's a yes.
I would think so, and I think they're probably the top 2 teams in their division as well that'll duke it out for the next few years here.
Years and years.
I think it's approaching that, especially, you had the St. Louis-Chicago rivalry, really great in baseball.
Just overall, yeah.
So,
Are the Blackhawks now the team to beat, safely to say they're going to team to beat in the West? You're hesitant. Why?
I don't know. 2-0, it's nice to see, 4 straight, but 2-0 is kind of, maybe it woke them up in this series, but you could be lulled back to sleep and not be so lucky next time, not be able to hop back on and win some more.
I think they are the team to beat. They've won 4 straight, which is a thing. And also, they're back fully intact now. No one's worried about injuries. They've got basically the gang back together from last year's title team. I mean, even if they're not necessarily the best team right now in the West, I think that you have to look at them and say, okay, the Blackhawks are going to win it if someone doesn't step up and beat them.
And the way they finished off that game, it's a little different if they'd once again won another double overtime on a fluky goal or something. The way they went and just finished off St. Louis the way they did, I think kind of sets them up because now they're going to get a couple days of rest, which after a physical series like this that was so competitive is important for these guys who have been banged up. Get them a couple days off, and they'll play the winner of Colorado and Minnesota. They got Game 6 tonight. It's Monday night for you people viewing on television. Any preference there, Colorado or Minnesota? The Avalanche lead 3-2 right now.
I think you'd rather play Minnesota. That's what I was going to say, is as much as it was a statement that they beat St. Louis and the way they did and the team to beat, if they play the Avalanche, it's going to be a tough series. I think Colorado won 4 out of 5. I'm missing a game, but they won the majority of the season series this year. They were always really hard-fought games, and I think a couple overtimes were in there, of course, because the Blackhawks can't escape overtime. But I think if they play the Avalanche, it's going to be a really tough one, and I think that would be probably the one team that if you were looking for one to beat the Hawks, they know how to do it.
Yeah, I'm kind of indifferent to who they play just because you have to play tough teams at this point anyway. And I think Minnesota's a lot better than the Minnesota they saw last year.
Yeah. And they won 4 out of 5, sorry.
Right.
Yeah, 4 out of 5.
And that being said, I don't want to play Colorado either. I'd rather play Minnesota. But yeah, I think we're all rooting for that series to go 7 games, definitely. Yeah. So we're going to take a commercial break. Later on the show, we still got a lot of Bulls talk to get to. They may not ever score another basket again.
But Taj Gibson will, but he'll be on the bench.
That's true.
Exactly. He'll be on the bench for Boozer for offense. For
there you go.
That's the Illini Drive here on WPGU 107.1.
Hi, this is Stacey King of the Chicago Bulls, and you're listening to the Illini Drive.
Line Drive here on WPGU 107.1. Thank you for joining us. And again, you can follow us along on social media and UPTV and everywhere else here in the Illini Drive. Your remedy for boredom is always at your hands. The cure for mediocrity, whatever you want to call us.
A radio show.
A radio show.
That's weird. The Chicago Bulls, last week we were panicking about them losing just the first game, and now I'm afraid there's going to be a lot of panicking for some of you guys.
Yeah.
Absolutely awful last night. Went to a 14-0 hole right off the bat, and the Wizards kind of rolled to a 98-89 win. They're up 3-1 in the series, and I think it's safe to say that no one in this state kind of thought this was going to happen because I hadn't watched one Wizards game all year. And Elliott Hill, I know you were on the Twitter, and you were upset.
Yeah, I
you
was
were complaining.
Yeah, no, yesterday was bad.
Yeah.
I couldn't control myself. I don't know. I was trying, but it was just so frustrating. My final tweet of the night was summed it up best. I think this was my least favorite Bulls game ever.
Oh,
it was just
This was your least favorite Bull. I mean, this was
I
painful
watched
to watch.
Derrick Rose go down with 2 season-ending injuries.
And this was really, this was a painful game because the Bulls
Yeah.
are not fun because they don't score.
Yeah.
And they just sometimes you look at them and say they really might not score the rest of this game. It's like the first quarter. But I mean, you watched some Bulls games when they had freaking who were some of those bad players?
had Eddie Curry. They had Tyson Chandler, rookie,
You watched
terrible.
Tyrese Thomas game.
Yeah, I could go down the list.
Tyrese Thomas.
The baby
You watched
Bulls,
some bad
Bulls
Bulls.
were amazing.
Tyrese Thomas was beautiful.
You
They
had
picked
some
Tyrese
bad.
Thomas over LaMarcus Aldridge, though. Do you see what he's doing now?
No. They drafted Aldridge,
Right.
and then they
Oh,
traded
did
him
they
for
trade out?
Tyrese
Oh,
Thomas.
they probably shooting themselves now.
For the great Victor Kriapa as part of that deal.
Ooh, Andres Nocioni. We could keep going with this list.
There we go.
They had some terrible.
But this game was painful. Let's not undersell it. It was terrible.
Yeah, I mean it was awful because you have this disciplinarian coach in Tom Thibodeau who's always he's having his team just beat better teams by having his team play harder, and yet you see the Bulls not getting loose balls, not going for loose balls, being lax on defense, giving up 30 points to Trevor Ariza who can't create his own shot. So the only way you can give up 30 points to this guy is by sheer negligence. It was just awful watching it, and it's kind of like because this was the game where Nene was out. It was like, okay, now we can play our game. If you're a Bulls fan, now the Bulls can play their game, and they didn't at all. They played the game they need other people to play in order to win, and so I mean the Wizards won easily, and it was a 9-point game at the end, but it was not even that close.
It really didn't seem like it. And then they had 16 turnovers as well, and that's something you definitely want to see from a Tom Thibodeau coach team. And you could see guys like John Wall and Bradley Beal really starting to get used to it. Now you could tell kind of their first few games there was a little jittery. This is their first time playing postseason ball, but they getting used to it now, especially with some of those veteran guys too to back them up. So they looking like a pretty good team right now. Or just the Bulls probably looking bad.
Yeah, I mean I agree with that. You got to see the Wizards. They're really evolving here in this series. They're kind of taking it over. And, Nene missed, I don't know how many games, 28, 30 games for them this year. So they're used to playing without him.
The biggest thing about this game is that, the Bulls obviously were down 2-1. And for some reason, I was almost not concerned. I said, you know what, Tom Thibodeau team, no Nene, this is a must win. We talked about why falling down 2-0 is bad.
Especially if you're falling down, losing 2 at home.
Exactly.
Yeah. Ooh.
And you know what? For all intents and purposes, I thought the Bulls were going to win a game easily.
I did too.
And for them to go out there and almost no show.
Yeah.
It was brutal.
They were down 7-0. It's like, okay. And then they get down 12-0. It's like, oh, gosh. And they're down 14-0 in the first quarter. And you're like, oh, well,
That's all.
shot themselves in the foot pretty handily here.
I mean, we think about it, Game 3 was almost no better. I mean, they won the game single-handedly because of a Mike Dunleavy. Who would think Mike Dunleavy would score 35 points?
No.
No one.
There's your Trevor Ariza type for the Bulls. He's not going to score unless you're just not guarding him, which they didn't.
Right.
The Bulls haven't looked like the better team in any of these 4 games,
They haven't.
frankly, which is discouraging. And
Is this the case of an overachieving team that has just kind of reached its limit?
it is sort of the case of that, but I mean, I think for them to lose in this series, that's not overachieving at all. That's underachieving. I think
I'd say they've overachieved to the point that
To this point, yeah.
But you think it's underachieving even if they lose right now?
yes.
Okay.
And the big thing that no one's talking about is that Joakim Noah is not making an impact.
No.
He's getting numbers, but he's not making an impact on the game. His energy isn't there in the same capacity. His intensity. I think he's kind of like taken aback by how much Nene bullied him.
Yeah.
And he hasn't been able to assert himself. You know, his assists haven't been up, and he's been used as a primary ball handler.
I want to say he had 6 turnovers yesterday, or somewhere around
Noah.
there.
Yeah, he only had 3 turnovers yesterday.
He had 6 maybe in the series. I remember 6 during them, but he had 3 yesterday, and they're playing his passing lanes.
Yeah.
And they're cutting it off.
They got it.
Yeah.
You know, it sneaks up on teams in the regular season, and it's not sneaking up on the Wizards this series.
Yeah. I heard something earlier that, I mean, it's the case with the Bulls is that the reason they're so successful in the regular season is that they're the team out there scouting and going all out to win every game. In the playoffs, everybody kind of does that. And everybody's scouting for each game and focusing in on certain things. And the case is now that the Bulls just don't have the talent. And that's what wins in the NBA playoffs. And when you got DJ Augustine as your leading scorer, it's just, I cannot fathom how they would really put together any kind of run.
I don't agree with that completely on its premises.
Mm-hmm.
I don't agree that they scout and other teams don't.
Well, yeah. Yeah.
And
Not
I
that
think
teams don't
I
at all.
think I think they're more fundamentally sound. Just in general, their game does get raised less than other teams' games do. I don't know. I'm sounding confusing, but
Yeah.
there is that extra level you take it up to in the playoffs.
Okay, I know what you mean.
And when you don't have high caliber players, like
You turn the
star
switch
players.
on,
Right.
but the light's
Yeah.
still a little dim.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Any chance they can come back and win 3 straight?
No.
Yes,
Well,
Of course, there's a chance.
but I mean, it would take an awful lot, and I think the first thing you have to do is you have to bench Boozer. You have to start Taj Gibson. You have to start incorporating guys like Jim or Fredette into your offense simply because he can shoot, and I don't think Tibbs is going to be willing to make the changes that are necessary to do it.
Would that? I mean, would putting Jimmer in help because he's just not been in the offense really? So would that just kind of stall things?
It could. You could try it out for a while, and
But
you know.
oh, you would stall out this offense that's going so well. You know.
Yeah.
Just gonna throw
At this point, it can't hurt.
Exactly.
Yeah, you gotta do something. I mean, because they relying on anybody for offense now. I mean, it's times you seen Jimmy Butler shooting threes, and when you Jimmy Butler and you playing about 40 minutes a night, and your sole purpose is defense. I mean, of course you're just gonna be tired shooting all those threes because Thibodeau's one of those coaches. He has no problem playing people a lot of minutes. I mean, we seen that since Derrick Rose came back. So I mean, I just think they don't have enough offense to win.
Yeah,
honestly.
and I'm not saying Jimmer Fredette is like the answer, but you just need as many options as possible. Diversify where your scoring is coming from, and Carlos Boozer has to do a better job of being a scorer and
of being Carlos Boozer.
Yeah,
I mean,
I don't know what that
5 years
entitles,
ago.
but
The problem of him being in there for Gibson for offense is now starting to be ridiculous.
Yeah.
Because he's not contributing, and Gibson's a lot better than Boozer on offense right now. I
Yeah.
think that's just period.
defense too.
And I think you're seeing the reality of this team here in terms of, people say, well, if Derrick Rose was here and with this team, they'd be fine. And I don't really think that's the case.
well, they'd
seeing
also have Luol Deng at that point.
Well, I
Yeah.
guess, but still, I think there's just...
Wait a minute. You think if you added Derrick to the Bulls right now, they'd still lose?
I don't know if they lose to the Wizards. I don't think they're good enough to win a title, though.
Well, yeah, that's been the problem. Yes,
They would beat the
But-
Wizards
yeah.
with Rose.
But they
definitely
would.
think so.
I think they would.
They would.
beat the Wizards. They may sweep the Wizards with Derrick Rose.
Fair.
Sweep it
I'm-
is- again, I'm underselling the Wizards again,
Yeah.
but I think it'd be a totally different series.
But people like to undersell Derrick Rose too.
Exactly.
All
You're adding one
guards
to
play
best.
good in Chicago. You hear that a lot, but
Yeah.
it's like DJ Augustine is not Derrick Rose.
no,
you put
that is a huge. This is a top 10 NBA player.
Oh, no, I know
Yeah.
that. I know
No,
that. I'm
you
just
can't
saying
put
the reality
Bradley
of the team
Beal
in the future
on
was-
Derrick Rose and limit him.
No.
Like
Do you think this Bulls team would win if they had Nate Robinson last year? Because he's a different player than DJ Augustine.
He is.
I mean, he had
Yeah.
more heart.
Yeah.
He was probably more offensive than Augustine.
and
in my
he
opinion.
brings that energy that that you would rely on Joakim Noah to bring that he's not
Yeah.
providing for this series.
right.
So
When
just
you, when you go on the scoring drought like they did to start off, they sub in Nate, and he'd go in there and probably get him a basket. So it's a 14-4 or whatever run.
Probably get
they-
him
they
double
go
baskets.
crazy.
I was gonna say he's never seen a shot he doesn't like.
Exactly.
So,
Yeah, I'm. Again, I think they're not going to win 3 straight, and it's crazy for me to say this team's really got no shot. because that's been the one thing is that just when you think that they're down, that's usually when they come back and say, what are they doing here? So maybe next week we're going to say, what the heck are the Bulls doing around? But it would shock me right now to say the Bulls, could win 3 straight. I'm going to bring up my favorite topic, Carmelo, again here and say, I'm going to just play fantasy here and say Carmelo gets to come here. Derek returns, is healthy. Are the Bulls the favorite going into next season?
You already know what I'm going to say.
We'll go ahead and say it.
Feel free, Torrance. Feel free to say it.
And now the caveat is they probably have to get Melo in some kind of sign and trade. So maybe is Taj going?
No, he's not going.
No.
If you have to lose Taj to get Melo, I don't think you get Melo.
If you still got Joakim, Jimmy Butler, Carmelo, Derrick Rose,
and Carlos Boozer. Well, no, not Carlos.
Boozer just stink up the joint.
You probably get another
Boozer.
big man.
Yeah, you don't have a power forward then.
They had to figure something out. I mean, they could sign somebody just big. That wouldn't be very good, maybe, but it'd be a Nazir Muhammad-like player.
Get a 6'9" player from the D League.
I think if you're able to execute some sort of miracle sign and trade where you get Melo and keep Gibson.
Then Butler's gone, right?
Sure.
Okay.
Whatever. I don't think they're favorites just because they haven't played together. I think they're in the conversation again though, and I don't think they are if you don't get anybody. Like if you don't get either Melo or you don't bring Mirotic over and get a player like Lance Stevenson, you have to add something because this core is apart. It broke apart when they traded Luol Deng. So you have to add something because right now your status is not that of a contender. You need to add parts.
And Mirotic is a big factor in that too. I mean, to what expense do you want to gut your team to bring in Melo? Just like to what expense did you want to do it to try to bring LeBron? And so it seems pointless to me to try to clear up space. Obviously, Anderson Boozer will give you a lot of money, but to get rid of a couple other guys to bring in him, I don't know if that gives you a shot. If you can get a guy like Mirotic to come over, I don't know how much cost. I don't know the dollar-wise on that transfer.
Basically, the Boozer amnesty would be to bring Mirotic over.
Well, that's a lot of money, but that can fill a big hole for you. He's a big guy. I mean, obviously, he's kind of a 3-4 player versus just a solid power forward, but...
You also have 2 first-round draft picks in a deep draft.
Oh, true.
Is that he's up at the big man, maybe they'll draft a guy.
Yeah, maybe they'll draft or maybe they'll
trade it, package it, and get
because they get Charlotte's pick this year, right? Because they made
the numbers are 6. They get the 16th and 19th pick.
Yeah, so that's something. In a deep draft, you can get something.
Yeah, especially if you got 2 shots.
Yeah.
I think they are the favorites if Carmelo comes and they're able to.
And Derek's back. Derek is such an unknown.
Derek got to be back though. You could just be back. But
he can't be like Brandon Roy back.
Yeah,
he has to be like Russell.
Russell Westbrook. I don't even want to think about Brandon Roy.
I don't think he'll be Brandon Roy back. He'll be actually back. So I think that gives you 2 superstars and enough. Do I think Melo's coming here? Probably not. I mean, that's just different.
Yeah.
But if we're playing fantasy, then yeah.
Well, it's interesting. I've been a longtime advocate of Lance Stevenson coming to the Bulls, and he apparently Adrian Wojnarowski of Yahoo Sports reported that he and Evan Turner got in a fight.
I heard about that.
Of their first playoff game. They got in an actual fist fight, not a Nene grabs Jimmy Butler behind the neck and scares the crap out of me, kind of. But they were throwing blows. And so if there's discord there and Lance isn't happy in Indiana, I think Chicago would be an ideal place for him.
Now, what's his he's a free agent or is he got to be traded?
He is a free agent.
Okay, just making sure.
He's probably going to go to, like you said, I remember you talking about him going to New York to play for his hometown, but you got to be...
Did they have any money to sign him?
They had 0 money.
So he'd have to take he'd be taking like the league minimum to play for the Knicks.
And he wants more.
Yeah. And see, I don't know if the Bulls have any money to sign.
He'd have to take a pay cut, but I think if you can keep...
If the commitment's winning, as these players like to say.
Mm-hmm.
He's a risky type of player.
He's a young type of guy. I think he might want to try and showboat somewhere else.
Yeah, it'll make some money.
But Thibodeau's probably the only guy that can set him straight if you're going to, because he's kind of a head case.
He's like a J.R. Smith type player.
Well, there's
he's kind of hard-headed.
Not J.R. Smith.
J.R. Smith is pretty hard-headed.
Yeah.
Maybe like a Steven Jackson type.
Yeah.
Yeah, he got that New York in him. Okay.
We're going to take a commercial break here in a second, but a huge first of all, I'll give the NBA their props. It's only been about a week or so old. One of the most fun first rounds that I can remember in recent memory. It's just been a lot of fun.
It makes up for what has been a pretty dull season.
Yeah.
The big storyline of the season was how bad the East was.
Mm-hmm.
That's not good.
Yeah. And this is why, once again, I'll say it again. I was, hey, wake me up when it gets to May in the NBA. Like, I don't care until then. And now I wake up and, what is this? All this great basketball's on. So it's
First
awesome.
time I heard you say that. Congratulations.
I would say, hey,
the thing about basketball.
I just don't care for the first 82 games, the 82 exhibition games. I wish they just get to it a little quicker. And it's a shame with all these great things going on in the NBA playoffs that we've got an idiot distracting us from it in L.A., the guy who owns the Clippers, Donald Sterling. So we're going to get to him and talk about some of the reactions that have been going on around that and what to do with that situation when we get back from our commercial break. This is the Illini Drive here on WPGU 1071.
Hey guys, this is Aaron Andrews and you're listening to WPGU 107.1.
Back here on the Illini Drive on WPGU. Been a fun show, talking a lot about the Bulls and the Blackhawks, and now we got to go to one of the biggest stories in sports over the past couple of days. And Donald Sterling, the owner of the Los Angeles Clippers, you probably heard the comments by now. Made some comments that TMZ picked up. We don't really know the nature of how they picked it up, but who cares? The NBA is not a court of law, so it don't really matter about that. The fact is, he did make some comments to his mistress. It's not as he's married. But this is some girl who apparently is a mistress.
Her first name is, she's identified as V. Stiviano,
yeah.
I think.
So don't know what that's about. But anyway, Sterling obviously made some comments that were just ridiculous. And like I said, I'm sure you've all heard them by now. And there's been a lot of reaction, a lot of backlash coming out throughout the day today. Some notable sponsors have been pulling themselves, their connection out of State Farm or out of the Clippers. It includes State Farm. I want to say... Who is
Sprint.
Sprint has come out. Mm-hmm. It's been some other. I meant to write them down here, but no more Cliff Paul if State Farm is going. So they've obviously had some reaction. You've heard things from Michael Jordan, who never takes a stance on anything. Doc Rivers. Did you hear Doc Rivers said earlier today that he was offered a personal meeting with Sterling and said, no thanks. I don't want to talk to him.
Wow, I didn't hear that actually.
I heard about, you got the Clippers, wore their jerseys inside, their warm-ups inside out before the game last night in a protest. Mm-hmm. Magic Johnson, who was in the photo that kind of set off the
whole conversation.
The whole conversation, Magic Johnson kind of spoken out about it. And even President Obama, who's in Malaysia, decides to had a comment about it as well. So, a lot of reaction, a lot of smart and strong stuff kind of being said. The league has announced a press conference tomorrow afternoon to address the idea. Do we have any indications, maybe what you guys read or what you think that it might be, and also what do you think it should be?
Well, there's a lot of conversation going around about exactly what can the league do, and it's really kind of a murky area because, as much as it is like segregationist and hate speech, more or less, that Sterling is spewing, he is entitled to First Amendment rights to say things. And unfortunately, you can't really just easily strip him of something he owns, of his position of ownership on the team, just because of something he says. What you can do is you can definitely pressure him to give up the team. You can suspend him, and I think it's possible that they can ban him from going to games, but I'm not actually sure on that. But there's certainly a way to. There's definitely, while it can't be the swift justice we all want, where they strip him of the team and say, get out of here, which is what you'd like to say. Mm-hmm. You can definitely make a statement and make it known that this is not okay to think and to just to hold those opinions.
And the Miami Heat also wore their jerseys inside, or warm-ups inside out, before their game today against the Bobcats. For you guys, what do you think the league will do tomorrow? What do you think they should do?
I don't think they can strip him of his team, but I think there'll be a suspension. Deadspin just posted a the bylaws of the NBA, and they found some interesting stuff that applies to players in terms of prejudice comments that they are talking with lawyers with to try to see if they can apply to owners. But I think there'll definitely be a suspension, and the stuff that was said is just, it's not tolerable for the kind of business that he's in, and especially the nature of the sport. It's a very weird situation because you have 80% of the league I think is African American. I heard someone said today, and his girlfriend's biracial, and it's just a very weird scenario where you have a guy arguing in favor of just kind of saying this is the culture, this is the world we live in, and we have to accept it, but then works in a league that, and as a girlfriend that you can sometimes, you can categorize as in minority. So it's just a very weird scenario to be in, but what he did, I think, will earn a hefty suspension and probably fine.
They can just suspend him indefinitely.
Yeah. I was supposed to jump in and say Chris Herring, works for the Wall Street Journal, tweeted out earlier that his guess is the league will suspend him indefinitely until they can force him into selling the team, which is...
That makes sense.
Which is probably what's going to happen. There is... Major League Baseball has done... has had some owners that have been basically forced into selling the team.
Yeah.
So there's a precedent in some other sports. I want to say the NFL might have. I don't remember exactly. But baseball has definitely had 2 or 3 people that have been essentially forced into just getting rid of the team. And it's something that, like I said, I would expect that he's had his last days enjoying being Clippers owner.
And it's going to come at a worse time because, it's playoff ball, too. And you got, guys like Chris Paul and, Blake Griffin, those guys on the team worry about winning, and you got this stuff always playing in the back of your mind.
And Doc can't even lie about it. Doc Rivers, he's like, I don't know if it affected us. You of course, we're so used to college athletics where everything's sunshine and rainbows all the time, and coaches, say, "Oh, we're fine, we're focused on playing." Doc Rivers is just like, "Hey, this hit a nerve."
Yeah.
Right.
Well, yeah, exactly, and that's why people were saying, "What should the Clippers do? They should protest and sit out the game." This and said, "Well, no, they're professional athletes. That doesn't make they don't want to sit out and put themselves in a playoff game."
Yeah, it's like Marcus Jackson said, or
Mark
Jackson. Sorry, Marcus Jackson's local. Mark Jackson said,
"Shout out to Marcus Jackson."
Yeah, we got you. Don't worry. That the Clippers fans should boycott the game and not show up for their next one. Like, that's not going to happen. It's reality, but it has to be dealt with.
I saw a tweet. Nice try, Jax. Nice try getting the fans not to come. Little gamesmanship.
What was I going to say? And you talked about just the unfortunate timing of it. I alluded to it before the break. They haven't won the best NBA playoffs that, to start at least right now, they've had in a while. And after, like you said, just an absolutely dull, ridiculous regular season. And right now, the focus is on this clown instead of all the good things happening on the court. So just really, really kind of unfortunate.
Yeah, it's so much has been said about this, already. I think if you are a Clippers fan or someone around the league in general, how do you respond to it? I think everyone that's spoken out, good on them. There's no person who is not in a position where they can say something about this.
Yep.
Like people are saying, okay, yeah, that's such a Heat thing to do, to go and show solidarity. Why does it matter what the Heat are doing?
Is that people are angry at the Heat for doing that?
People still mad at the Heat. Come on, now.
Yeah.
That's
But
what you mean?
The Heat, good on them for doing that.
Yeah.
This affects the entire league. It affects how people look at the entire league. People who aren't familiar with NBA are coming and saying, "Oh, this playoffs is kind of interesting," and then bam, there's your black eye saying,
"Yeah, that's what they're doing in the NBA.
Yeah,
be a part of
exactly."
That.
So everyone that is involved, every fan, don't not go to the game. Go to a game and just chant hateful, chant at Donald Sterling. Say that, whatever you want to say. Bring your sign.
Yeah. I was going to ask you now. Obviously, this is not. How would you react? This was a fan, and this was in Chicago, or you were a Clippers fan. Would you say, okay, I'm not paying money to go to the games. I'm not going to watch the game, or I'm not going to buy any Clipper stuff because I don't want him to benefit right now until he's gone from the team. Is that? It's kind of an unrealistic almost expectation to have, but I would have took the stance of, I'm probably not going to buy any tickets then right now.
I don't know about that. I'd say it's tough because, listen, Donald Sterling is a very rich person.
Right.
He's going to make money no matter
Despite
what you
himself.
do. But also...
Because he has, and the Clippers have been awful forever.
Yeah.
awful.
And he's
for
been
him.
he's
and he has been
billionaire.
sitting up there doing nothing forever. Yeah.
Exactly. And also, money doesn't matter to him.
No.
You give him, like, what are you going to, your $80 ticket, he's won you. No, just, it doesn't mean anything, you know? It's these owners like to think that they have the power, but if you were to take Donald Sterling and Chris Paul and just put them in, you know, the middle of any city and just have them walk around neighborhoods, people are going to be going up to shake Chris Paul's hand, and they're not going to care who Donald Sterling is. He thinks he has power, but he's got money, and there's a difference. And right now, I think you're seeing the difference in terms of
Someone suggested this. They should take Chris Paul away, essentially, and say, hey, all right, we're going to grant Chris Paul or Blake Griffin free agency, and say if you guys want to leave, you can walk. This is just something I heard from a writer on Twitter. I can't remember exactly who.
That'd be an interesting
That's
concept.
interesting.
But
I'm
I
not
think for parity of the league purposes,
Yeah, I would like
maybe don't do that.
Saying bullshit, get ready, man.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, I think people worry too much about, is this guy going to make any money off me? It's like if you want to enjoy a Clippers game and you want to go watch those players play, you know, you don't have to worry about contributing a millionth of a percent to Donald Sterling's wallet.
And if there's any positive you could take away from the situation, I think it's the fact that it's actually getting covered, and you see a lot of these scandals and issues of who said, she said, he said, that aren't covered and are blocked out by, you know, the rich, powerful owners. And so I kudos to, you know, not tooting our own horn as media here, but kudos to the media for actually finding this and telling
to the internet.
Yeah, to the internet.
You know?
And what I also find what would be interesting to see is in the recordings, the girlfriend, you know, if we can take what actually was said as truthful, mentioned, you know, like that the other people called Sterling to tell him, hey, your girlfriend's with such and such on the court and in Instagram, we don't like that. And I'm curious to know if were those other NBA owners, who are those people that thought that what she was doing was wrong, because then that opens up a whole nother can of worms of, okay, there's other people that are in big time power with similar views that could happen in any other case, and it could very well be another NBA team. You just don't know.
Yeah, that's the tricky part about it. And there's so many things that when you think about it that happen around really just this year in general about just prejudice. You saying the Marcus Smart stuff was said about that, and you got Michael Sam coming out and just races getting thrown out a lot into these sporting situations as well, and it's getting covered now. I mean, it's sad that those are things that happened like decades ago, but I mean, it's still going on today. So.
And the thing is, though, as these people are getting found out, they're getting taken down.
Right.
And I think that's a good thing. And I think, you know, it's kind of like a purging process. It needs to happen. You need to find the Donald Sterlings in your NBA box suites and get them out of there, you know. And it's not a pretty process, but I think it needs to happen.
Definitely a complicated issue. Be interested to see what the NBA does tomorrow. I believe that press conference is at noon, maybe noon Eastern, so maybe 11 our time, but we'll check that out. We're going to transition into Badass of the Week, someone who did something spectacular in the last week of sports. Here on a different note, go ahead and wants to start us off.
I'll take it. I mean,
you normally got like 4 of them.
Yeah, I was going to say, I just got a list. No, I got Duncan Keith of the Chicago Blackhawks, and in game 6 he had 1 goal and 3 assists, four total points. And you know, I've just always been a giant Duncan Keith fan, just for the way he plays and how hard-nosed he is, and it's good to see him getting on the board in a different way other than just, you know, getting his teeth knocked out.
I'm not sure who my badass of the week is. I'm a bad planner for this. I think I can go with the Kane and Taves combo, come back healthy, winning the series for the Hawks. But I also the Durant shot, where he'd fade away 3 and the foul was incredible. I mean, it just shows how phenomenal of an athlete and an incredible player he really is. So I think I'm gonna have to go with that, just because you like you said, the NBA playoffs have been phenomenal. And that's just a testament to what it's been.
That's like a shot you'll see in the game, a horse or something.
Yeah,
I know.
Man, that's crazy. But
I mean, you'd have to come and tackle me, and as you
as you tackle,
I'm going to shoot it.
Right. I got just badass too. I mean, just going back to this topic we was on. I mean, I would probably say just Adam Silver for really just for one, obviously taking David Stern's position and really, doing more stuff. I mean, obviously this is a pretty big issue going on, and him taking a stance. I mean, obviously in his first year being really the head commissioner, and it's good to see him, really doing things early, for him to have that position. So I'll definitely say him. And
assuming that significant action is taken.
But the fact that he reacted so early to it, that's the part that made it badass to me.
But it's a big moment in NBA history tomorrow. It'll be interesting to see what happens for Silver in his early career.
Yeah.
Shout out to Vince Carter.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
forgot about that.
With the other game winning 3.
But I'm gonna give my badass of the week to Jack Ramsey on the basketball note. He's before my time, but
Slightly.
a little bit. But I mean, he's one of the stewards of the game. Definitely, he was a coach. He was a broadcaster, and he was just a very influential guy. And Breaks of the Game, a book he wrote, is a phenomenal read. So, and he passed away today. So
that's a good one. We run the gauntlet here, so I guess I gotta throw in a little baseball, but I'm gonna go extra to the south side of town, which pains me to do.
We won't tell anyone. It's okay.
Yeah, it pains me to do, but Jose Abreu for the White Sox has been absolutely ridiculous. 10 homers, 31 RBIs, both rookie records. And the only reason Robin Ventura, the Sox manager, joked that he may sit him these next couple of games in April is because Robin Ventura holds the White Sox record for RBIs in a month. He said, I don't want to bring you breaking that record. So, but he has been absolutely tremendous, and the White Sox definitely need something to do on offense. Somebody do something on offense. So, could have had a better start for him. So, just awesome.
Yeah, he has been playing badass.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's almost as badass as having the best record in baseball.
That's some Brewers.
True.
Starting to get they have to play the Cubs a little too often. So,
Hey. They play the Cardinals today. They'll get started going back in the other direction.
yeah, exactly.
They never beat St. Louis.
No one does.
Oh, really? Is that a league-wide thing?
Yeah, it is.
Not very familiar.
Been a fun show here today. Like I said, a lot to talk about. Thank you all for listening. We'll be back next week, same time on WPGU from 6 to 7. And again, you can catch us on Urbana Public Television at 9 p.m. on Wednesday night. We thank you all for listening. And this has been Illini Driver on WPGU. Now back to Champagne's Alternative 107.1.